You think that uniform still means something? The judge chuckled, tapping his gavel like a punchline. Son, you're not in the army now. You're in my courtroom. The laughter that followed didn't come from the gallery. It came from the bench, from the very seat where justice was supposed to live. Officer Marcus Hale stood silent in his worn military fatigues, head bowed beneath the fluorescent courtroom lights, his body still standing tall from years of service, but his spirit visibly cracked. In one hand, he held a folded sheet of paperwork from the VA. In the other, an old phone that had seen combat zones, hospital wards, and now heartbreak. Marcus had missed his last court date, not to party, not to run, but because he had checked himself into emergency trauma therapy at the VA hospital. PTSD wasn't a headline in his life. It was a war that never ended. He had brought the documentation. He had hoped, just once, that someone in this new battlefield called civil life might understand. But instead, Judge Harlan leaned back in his leather chair, smug, giddy with his own words, shaking his head like he was watching bad stand-up. Therapy, he scoffed again. Right, we've all got trauma, soldier boy. Doesn't excuse unpaid rent and ducking your obligations. The courtroom was still except for a few uneasy chuckles from the back. Marcus didn't answer with anger. He simply nodded. His voice was steady, almost quiet enough to miss. Your Honor, may I make one phone call? The judge raised an eyebrow, amused. What's next? Captain America going to kick down that door and testify on your behalf? Another laugh, another ripple of humiliation. Marcus just nodded again. And then, without raising his voice or making a scene, he turned away and dialed. One sentence was all he said into the phone. No name, no explanation. Just, "Ma'am, it's time." He hung up, placed the phone gently on the table, and stood silently. Less than 60 seconds later, the double courtroom doors opened. Not with a bang, but with quiet finality. Two military police officers entered first, dressed in formal blues, the room falling into dead silence at their presence. Then came a woman in a dark navy suit, heels clicking like a metronome of control, flanked by two Secret Service agents. She walked with the kind of calm that doesn't request attention. It commands it. Without addressing anyone else, she approached the bench and laid a thick file in front of the judge. Colonel Rachel Ames, Military Legal Division, she said, not loudly, but with a voice that cut through the air like steel. You've just violated federal protocol by denying protected rights to a war veteran under active mental health supervision. This man is Sergeant First Class Marcus Hale. 2 bronze stars, commendation for valor, honorably discharged. Under the Emergency Housing Act, this eviction is illegal, and your comments have been recorded and filed with the Judicial Review Board. The judge turned pale, his gavel slowly dropping from his fingers. I wasn't aware, he stammered, but Colonel Ames didn't let him finish. No, you weren't. Because you never asked. You mocked him, laughed at his trauma. Publicly humiliated a soldier whose only mistake was needing help. Cameras were now rolling, phones up. The same courtroom that had laughed at Marcus minutes ago was now frozen in realization. Colonel Ames turned to Marcus, her tone softening. Sergeant Hale, this hearing is over. You're coming home with us. One of the MPs nodded and gently tapped Marcus on the shoulder. Not as an escort, but as a brother. As they turned toward the door, the judge attempted to reclaim his voice. This is highly irregular. But it was too late. The power had shifted. The uniform had spoken. Outside the courthouse, reporters circled like moths. Marcus didn't hold a press conference. He didn't deliver a speech. He simply said, I didn't ask for anyone to save me. I just wanted someone to listen. That moment became a flashpoint. News outlets picked up the story. Military forums lit up with support. Veterans across the country saw themselves in Marcus and the shameful treatment he endured. Judge Harlan was suspended within the week, pending investigation for misconduct and abuse of authority. His smirk, once worn proudly in every courtroom, had vanished from public view. As for Marcus, things slowly began to turn. A non-profit stepped in to cover his housing. The VA extended new outreach therapy. And soon Marcus began speaking, first to small veteran groups, then to larger events. Not about his war stories, but about what it means to fight when the war follows you home. He became a voice for those too tired to shout, too wounded to march, too invisible to be noticed. The courtroom had laughed, but no one was laughing now. The man they mocked had stood still, cried quietly, and called for help. And in doing so, reminded the world that silence doesn't mean weakness. Dignity doesn't wear a badge, and sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones still fighting just to be seen. Sometimes the gavel is the loudest thing in the room, until truth walks through the door. And when it does, even the loudest judge goes quiet. Before we wrap up the story, let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? We'd love to hear. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button.